Okay, welcome. So, over here on this screen, I just kind of, from the last video, I realized that I didn't have these the right size, so I made them the right size, then I saved it. Then I was looking around because I realized, this is what I realized, is of course I should consider the C-mounts more closely surrounding them. Like I really was mostly paying attention to here, even like kind of like, well, I'll account for that later kind of thing. Now I'm looking at it like, well, maybe now's the time. Okay. And I quickly noticed, especially this, like once I saw that this is kind of like this thing going on, something of that nature going on, I'm like, okay, like if something were a sphere and it were to come apart, like maybe it would have a segment as some sort of main core that had like arms like this. So I was kind of feeling like, okay, if I kind of just envision this boundary instead as like a more precise boundary, but even maybe like truly the entire seamount, practically, at least like where it's like continuous and not like just branching out into things like this. Like, I'm sure it's related, but it's hard to like account for at that point. Okay, in places that's and also unrelated in places, which what makes it less reliable. But like this general larger like triangular rotating shape coupled with this shape, and I noticed here that there's kind of like a generally starting from here, especially to around here, and then up here, and then down, and then up, down, up, down, up, and then it seems to start to do a little. It does, it has some little gap jump thing, and then this here, which then comes out to there. So ignoring the rest of these islands for the time being, although it'll probably have the same ramifications where this S here is kind of trying to draw my attention. Whoa. I don't want to forget what I was going to say. Like, I was sitting here looking at the map, looking around, so here's the first thing I noticed is, I was like, okay, so let's just say in the simplest way, obviously the most appropriate approach of doing this would be to say, well, this all, if it was a sphere, then this all generally was attached. At least at like the first step, take that. Not that it will be that way. Understanding it may not be that way, but just like as a good like starting approach. I mean, it's just the way it ripples like this. Okay. But my thought is, so I've kind of strongly magnetized, if you will, this island to be positioned here, generally speaking, which mean like here, especially here, so like kind of like here. Like it fits pretty well in the currents, although maybe it might fit better at like a distance even. Going by the geology here. So what I was getting at is, if that's the case, this segment here generally like comes up to there, And so, like, these are like, well, if that's the case, then what about these? So my thought is it's possible that is the case. Not to say that it is, because this is very much like fluid at the moment. I wouldn't call it gaseous, like, or ether, like it's been brought out of the ether because it's like now a thing that I'm considering rather than not a thing considered. And then it's became like gaseous, so it's definitely very fluid. But I think it's stabilizing enough to be more like flowing like a water, hopefully, and then solidifying to like a really stable, like, okay, this was here, that was there, that was there, that blah 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 blah. So basically, what I'm thinking is this main island is like where the magma, like, the biggest magma chamber of them all within Hawaii, the sphere of Hawaii as it formed the biggest magma chamber of them all is within what is now the big island of Hawaii. But while they were together, it was still generally there, which is why it's still there. Is it was like associated with this layer, like in a direct way, where they're one system pretty much. And so here, currents were flowing, but then, like, assuming it's a sphere, because we're basically just going down that route of seeing, is that possible to consider it. And if it was a sphere, it's possible that there was a current coming out of the side, and then, like, as this moves away, it starts to physically bubble. Like a thing here. Is that going the right way? Here, that, like, as it pulls away, does that make sense there? As it pulls away, that would be backwards. I'm not sure about this one. It kind of makes sense if the other one is. So essentially, I'm thinking, like, is it possible that this was like releasing a current? Because over here, this system appears to have the current going around the other way, returning, and where it does, it like branches around rather than, like, basically it collides with and meets resistance and bends. And my thought is maybe, like, where it was physically entering was through like a portal, an opening, like the lava waterfall, like these kind of things, but into the, like, it was physically flowing back into through here and into, generally, like, here, maybe through here into here, through here into here, like through openings that then, like, once the crust separated of this sphere, like the segments began to break apart, then the opening is still, like, visible here, maybe just a thought. And then, like, it's sealed, but then, like, what was within here ended up not being actually at an equilibrium with, like, right here, like the entire ocean around the island. It's not in balance. Like, a balance is just equilibrium. So what ended up happening is, then I believe it's sealed, but then it, like, flowed underneath the surface and reached the boundary of the crust of the seamount of the big island of Hawaii, and then it just basically under like bubbled up. So this island that is considered to be like the next island coming out of the hotspot is probably, well, not island, the seamount to be the next big island. Like once this big island becomes this island, and they start to like enter into the sequence of becoming these islands, then this one will become the next one like this. But I don't think that's what's happening. I think what's happening is what is essentially the current flowed into the polygon. When it was a sphere, it was flowing especially into it through the circuit of the sphere. But then the sphere broke apart and the current no longer flowed. And here we are, seeing the current that was trapped in the polygons making its way underneath it here. But so I was looking at this island just to get an idea. Kahulave. 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 Smallest of 8 main volcanic islands. Geology. Extinct shield volcano. Low profile, resembling a warrior's shield, which formed during the Pleistocene. So 2.58 million years ago, according to radiometric dating. Basaltic lava flows. Okay. Caldera. Last volcanic activity occurred about 1 million years ago. Okay. So this is interesting because it means, or it strongly suggests, like how this island has like the bulk of the current that was flowing through the sphere still contained within it. That is like bubbling up, at least from this segment. It's releasing pressure over here, causing that. I would say. But maybe in this case, like it's very much like an arrowhead, and arrowheads are not just like, they're not just arrowhead shapes like, oh, okay, cool, let's move on. Like I'm looking at one right here. Here's one. Here's one, here's one. Here's one, here's one, here's one, kind of. They're all over the place. They're in Garnar. I won't go to it because it's too subtle, but I've talked about it. Shown it in detail. Okay. So there's this arrowhead, and my thought is maybe, like, back to what I was saying about that there's a current flowing out here. Maybe as this segment moved, like, broke off this side, like, maybe over here was kind of connected generally, like, around it, maybe? Just thinking in 3 dimensions. As a sphere, that is. Thinking of it as a sphere. Okay. However exactly this was, I kind of feel like it just continues, like up, down, and then actually up, down. Like kind of that this made it more fluid than it looks, and then like it folds in ways. Okay, so this shape and this shape, another place that happens. From like right here, but it's also like that very much looks like South, or like Mexico, pretty much. In a way where it's suggestive that maybe it's like where cross currents occurred, where cross currents crossed. Because there's a current coming this way, and there's a current coming this way, and then they cross in this up to this boundary, pretty much, and then after this boundary, the current coming across this way spreads out, especially in all directions, pretty much, and back this way, causing this current and this current and this current and this current, and back through here. So there's this like tendency in currents. So there's probably a cross current involved here. Where they physically crossed, which maybe was around these. I'm not sure if these are going the same way. They almost have to be. Or one significantly less magnitude. Okay. So there's that, where maybe it's possible that, like with the seamounts considered, these ones are actually formed like as the like mini Earth grew. It didn't just immediately like break apart. It formed different constituents, and those like occurred in ways where like as they separated like a channel like this, like here is going in, but over here is going out, like here. So like here it's like emitting a, so it must have been here, generally speaking. It almost had to be there, where if it was like that was how it was happening, then it was like pushing a current. And that kind of makes sense if this system was like here, just like here, and it broke off and started to like flow, but there's a current coming here, that it would generally start to rotate like this, and the current would be like pushing into it like more over here, and then just like rotate more, and then over at this side being like where the current's coming out, maybe running into the resistance initially, and that's why it has this shape. Like if I go back to like here, like the currents maybe coming out like that, but like pushing into it initially, something of that nature, where it like runs into the resistance of this structure, and so it like pushes it out. Get these out of the way, but then behind that in comes this one. That then continue, and maybe this begins to rotate like in a current, like a like this, and how also this one rotates countercurrent to this one. So, like, because there's probably rotation, like rolling going on, there's probably counter rolling. So it's almost it's almost assured that this didn't just like physically move out like this. Like it also moved out. Like it probably formed more like in a straight structure like this one, just straight out and meeting resistance. But then it began to turn. That's probably why it has this, because it turned like this way into a current as this region like ballooned to kind of turn it. Like it filled this way. So this thing started to turn this way, filled this way, yeah. Filled here like this, so this thing started to turn the other way, like this. I don't know if that made sense in the final map. Pretty much, yeah. And then again, this one bubbled out behind it as the next one. At which point, this. Where was it? This corner is kind of head on, so it's kind of like here. It formed pretty much like here. Maybe a little more like that. I don't know. Like, does that make sense for this one? Like, this sat here. Let's go back to this one. Initially, it came out at like this angle-ish, but more straight on. And then it needs to rotate. Maybe I should do this. Just do this real quick. Okay. Way better. Okay. So essentially, it comes out like that. And then it kind of makes sense that it would, if it like was pushed over this way. And I guess just by being there, it'd kind of make the current go around it. At which point it would make it, this region start to have a current flow in like a vortex, which would then move this over, and then it would like press against this and just rotate along this boundary, maybe. Physically rotate then like 30 degrees, boop. Just roll, and as it rolls, create a tail that wasn't quite there yet. Part of me is I kind of cheat to make it match it at the end. Oh, look at it rolling. Look at it rolling exactly to match the end product. And as that's happening, it's just forming another one, I guess. That maybe this one is related to like the current that was going to the side while the object was there before it rolled off. And then maybe this also rolls. I don't know if it would have needed to, but it looks like it's plausible that these two physically formed after the fact. So like to really put the pieces of this Hawaiian Earth together is to like not include these until like just that kind of process when they start to separate, and then it fills in by the current flowing out of this side. just a math, because it is Mauna Loa that had a physical channel, like a that it was just flowing around this entire Hawaiian body, and then the channel just opened and was free to flow and physically create islands. I mean, it seems highly plausible to me enough to just say they may not be part of the original structure, and it may be more like back to this, just this mostly. Forget how I had this exactly. Pretty much this current going in there. Mind you, the coloring is a little off. I don't think it's actually like they're different maps, so I don't think the coloring means it's the same material. Although maybe it tends to be related in some way that I don't know the details of these maps geologically. I'm just using them more for like the actual physical appearance of the, like, obviously, like it would make no sense if I'm just like putting things like, I don't know, somewhere that just doesn't really fit. Like, this doesn't really fit. Like, maybe I could see myself sitting here, be like, well, maybe from here to here to here to here. Well, maybe it is there. Well, maybe it is there. Oh, Steelers about to play. But I really think the reality is that this current flowed in here, through here, which was in this region, like this. Like this, and then after that, these two just got accreted in the process, so they didn't exist beforehand. I wonder if they're anomalously younger enough to make sense in that way. And then I was thinking that maybe this region physically, like, was, because it's certainly curious that this one and this one have the seamounts like directionally related here, and this one is known. I think this might be known too. I'm not sure what the scientific literature says on what's going on with the relationship of these, but it appears like they're very related. Like, both of them are related to this one pile, which is odd. Why would two islands be related to one pile? It's almost like they exploded apart from one another. So maybe, like, it wasn't just an additional landmass here, but like that was also then attached to here up this way. So it's almost like folds over, and when it pretty much just like opened and just exploded. Maybe that's where or how it happens when it breaks apart, is like a portion exploding outward and then folding open like that. So that maybe it was kind of more like this, down here, up this way, down here, up this way, along this side too, up this way, to like basically like that, something of that nature. So that this overall was more like here, 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 and then around here would then be something else. And this one I've kind of established pretty well. I feel like that one I feel pretty confident about was yeah, turn, that's why. One of them will work. I'm just keep turning. Keep turning. Like around here-ish. I had it somewhere. Essentially where the Shaligram feature and the Siberian traps are adjacent. I know that that made no sense to people who are just watching this without any previous viewing of my videos. Did he just call? I don't know. I don't even know what it's called. I just call it the Siberian traps, pretty much. It's like Kahlua or something. Kahlua. Extinct volcano, Big Island, Hawaii. Kohala, that one. Kohala is an extinct volcano on the Big Island of Hawaii, which I strongly suspect to be like its equivalent Siberian traps. Let's look around. It does have a lot of weird features. Not like porosity though. So if that's the case, which it appears to be, just by that, it's like the top came off then. The North Pole just fell off over back here. And then the rest of it, like a outside current, was then able to get in through the North Pole, like the opening in the North Pole, then because there was no North Pole anymore. And as it broke off, it basically separated from the rest of the system. At which point, the rest of the system just like stretched out, rolled out, kind of like one of those fruit roll-up type things. Maybe in a similar way, there was a current that was generally flowing here that led to this. I don't know. I was thinking this was just there. Like it was, I talked about this a bit in the last video. It was, I need that, Hawaii. This one. Pardon me, sir. There we go. So it does seem like they were kind of one unit here. That's right, this was Greenland. See, I just forget things. I say. It's hard to remember all this stuff. That's why I need help. People like, what do you need? What do you mean? Can't do it yourself, then you aren't even able to compete with us. We're just gonna keep going, keep going, keep going. We do the scientific method here. Okay. It does, based on the things I was considering before, seem like it pre-existed, and then it just broke apart here, and then like collided with itself. The two segments collided when they broke apart. They and created like an overlap, which then this general island has like two pillars that it especially stands on in some way to distribute its mass, and then it helps hold the entire segment of this up with the overlaying mass, I think. So, the Steelers are about to play. I don't know. So that was probably closed. In closing, this was probably closed. This was probably over here. These two probably formed subsequent to the process as the main body expanded out and broke apart. It then like ruptured segments out. Maybe this little thing too. I don't know what it is. Oh, it's so cute. Other boats. Whoa. It's got like a face in there. So that's my present, without further investigation, which will occur, without that yet occurring. That's what I got so far. Um, and I'm gonna go ahead and stop here before football gets a little too football-y. Alright. So that closed. That had more material there. That was over there. That pre-existed. These were formed in the process. And okay. See you soon.